So this is periodic table. What are main group metals? These main group elements, non-metals here. What about these ones?
Those are transition metals.
They are transition metal. These are inner transition metal. They do not follow the same rule.
Okay.
How do we determine the charges of these metals? We have to look at their non-metal partner. I'm going to show it to you soon. But what I'm saying is valid about these two. Look at group number, the charge is +1. Look at group number, the charge would be +2. Look at group number, the charge is +3. Look at group number, the charge, this is exception, but the charge can be 4A minus 8, which is going to be 4, but I will tell you, these don't follow that rule. Carbon makes covalent bond. We talked about this on chapter 5. It doesn't like to make ionic bond. But if there are 5 electrons, 5 minus 8, the charge is 3. If there are 6 electrons in the outer shell of non-metal, right? 6 minus 8. How far is it from 8? It needs to gain 2 more electrons. So -2. How far is it from 8? 1 more electron would make it 8. How far is it from 8? Except for helium, which is exception. The rest of them, they already have 8 electrons and they are very stable. Do I make sense? Any question? Any question, guys? Any question, guys? Okay, I'll go back where I was. No, maybe I went too far. So, what about transition metal here? Do you see iron is a transition metal? It's not a main group metal. Do you see it can have charge of 2 or 3. So they don't have a single charge, except for zinc, of course. Zinc is the exception. So if they have lower of the 2 possible charges, we call them ferrous, OUS at the end. If they have the higher charge, which is 3, we add IC at the end. So ferric has +3, ferrous has +2. Between these two different charges of copper, the lower charge is cuprous, OUS. If it's the higher charge, add ic at the end. Cupric means +2. If gold has 2 possible charges, lower charge ors, higher charge or ic. If Sn has 2 possible charges, lower charge stanness, higher charge stannic. If lead has got higher and lower charge, the lower charge is plumbous and plumbic for higher charge. The only problem for this system, which is older system, it doesn't tell you what is the charge. Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 1? You don't know. But the new system, which is more systematic, makes life easier. We actually show the charge of the transition metal. We say this is iron, parentheses, Roman numerals. So you know it's lower charge and it's 2, it's not 3. And here your iron 3 for +3 charge, copper 1, copper 2, gold 1, gold 3. So you actually, by using a Roman numeral, you know you're dealing with the higher charge and lower charge, and exactly what is the lower charge of iron, which is 2. But in case of copper, the lower charge is 1. So both systems are being used, and you need to familiar with both. I give you this table on the exam. So you will be using this table to name one of the compounds of transition metal. Or if I give you the name, you can write the correct formula. For example, guys, what is the difference between these two? What do you call these two? In other words, what is the charge of iron in FeCl2? What is the charge of iron in FeCl3? Well, do you remember that we said total charges of the atoms in an ionic compound must add up to be 0 because electrons are not created. In a chemical reaction, electrons are not created, neither they are destroyed. They just change hand. If they change hand, if they are exchanged between two atoms, one of them loses electron, becomes positively charged. The other one is going to get same amount of electrons to become negative. So when you add negative and positive together in an ionic compound, you get 0 charge. If you accept this principle, can I say, what charge do you expect from chlorine? You say chlorine is group 7A, minus A, 7 minus 8 is minus 1. So you already know the charge of the partner of iron. There are two of them. Each one of them have a negative charge. So you have got -2 for 2Cl. So guys, can you guess the charge of iron in FeCl2? What number adds to -2 to be 0? What should I add to -2 to be 0? Yes, good job. So you know, if I am going to name this compound, I can call it, let's bring it here, iron 2 chloride, iron. And if I'm going to name the other one, FeCl3, they both of them exist actually. It's 3 chlorine, each chlorine -1, a total of -3 for 3 chlorine. So what should be the charge of iron to add to -3 to be 0? Is it +3? +3 adds to -3 to be 0. So what should I call this other compound of iron and chlorine? It says iron 3 chloride. Or this one lower charge, ferrous chloride, this one higher charge, ferric chloride. Two different systems, two different names. So do you see why I say the rule for main group elements is easily done by group number and they have only one charge? That rule, why it doesn't apply to transition metals? These two behave like transition metal as well. Al does not. Because you see chromium has got 2 charges. Iron has 2 different charges. Copper has 2 different charges. Gold has 2 different charges. Sn have 2 different charges. So the charge is not single. How do we determine the charges of transition metal elements? We look at their partners. If they are positive, they must have a negatively charged partner. And if they must have, the charges must add up to be 0. So once we know the negative charges of all anions, positively charged ions must have the opposite charge. So that's how we do that. Do you have any question, guys? Don't be shy to ask, please. All right. So go guys, apply what you just learned to these three and raise your Zoom hand so I know you're ready. Let's see who is going to get it the first. I haven't had a single hand up yet. We want to do this together. Oh, 2 participants. Excellent. Thank you. 2 people got it. I need more hands up. In other words, all you want to do, you want to make sure charges add up to be 0. In this case, can I say the charge of oxygen is 6 minus 8? Because oxygen is in group 6A, right? So the charge is minus 2. The charge of sodium is in group 1A, so it's plus 1. If I have 2 times plus 1, adds up to be plus 2. And I have 1 oxygen minus 2, so these two are adding up to be 0, so that is the correct answer. All you have to do, make sure charges add up to be 0. Aluminum is in group 3A, right? It's a metal, always positive. So aluminum is Al plus 3. Chlorine is in group 7A, which is minus 8, non-metal, minus 1. 3 chlorine is 3 times minus 1, which is minus 3. And we said the charge of aluminum is plus 3. Do these add up together to be 0? So that is the correct answer. None of these add up to be 0. These are not acceptable. No, not. The answer in part C, just have to add up the charges to see if they become 0 or not. Can I say here, oxygen, we said it's in group 6A minus 8, so oxygen has a charge of negative 2. How many oxygen do we have? 3. Each oxygen a charge of negative 2. Can I say negative 6 is the charge of 3 oxygens? And the iron has plus 3 charge. There is 2 of them. Plus 6, they add up to be 0. So if I go to the next slide, do these make sense? So if I go to the next slide,